All right, UFC Fight Night Atlanta this weekend, coming off of a big pay-per-view with Marab beating Sean O'Malley, Kayla Harrison winning the title.
Oh yeah,
Now we're back. No longer, we're not in the Apex, thank goodness. We've
we're
got a
like we're
good
we're
run
out of the dark ages.
out of the dark ages that was that few weeks. In Atlanta, good fight night here. Main event with Kamaru Usman and Joaquin Buckley. We'll break that down at the end of the video, but for now, we'll get the predictions going with Alonzo Menafield against Umar Sy. This fight was originally booked for the London fight night between Leon Edwards and Sean Brady, I believe. And now it's getting rebooked for this card. Umar Sy, the betting line's not on here, but he is a heavy, heavy favorite. AJ, I'll let you take this one first. How do you think this is going to go?
Well, see the record. We talked about the betting line. Omar Sy, 11-0. Lonzo Minifield, borderline GFL. Um, Omar Sy, good up and comer. I think he's just going to go in there, get it done. We need some more prospects in the light heavyweight division. We really don't have anyone to follow besides the top, 3 or 4 guys up there. So hopefully he can get a little thing going and make some noise in the light heavyweight division. I think he keeps it going tomorrow, and I think he finishes Alonzo Minifield by knockout.
Yeah, I think I'll second that when it comes to your take on how we need more up and coming light heavyweights. I mean, we had last weekend Asmat Mirzakhanov with his showcase, his finish that he had, and now we got Umar Sy with an opportunity to fight a guy in Alonzo Menafield who's been in the rankings, lower in the rankings before, has had experience against some higher level guys, and I feel like with the win here, Omar Sy can get himself a ranked fight next. So with that being said, I mean, you look at Omar Sy. This is his third bout in the UFC now. 2 fights in 2024. First fight fighting another undefeated guy, Tuco Tucos, with a rear naked submission, and then fighting then another undefeated fighter with Dawoon Jun with a unanimous decision. Umar Sy's a good grappler. He's actually the biggest finish line for him is for him to have a submission here. So I agree, though. I think we're gonna get a TKO. I think he's gonna get some ground and pound after getting some top position. I don't think Menafield is gonna have much of a chance with him unless he lands something crazy, which he is more than capable of doing at times. I mean, he does have crazy power and he will swing for the fences, but overall, I think Umar Sy is just too complete, too well rounded, and once it gets to the ground and Alonzo Menafield's on bottom, I think he'll have a lot of trouble there and won't be able to get out of it. I'll go with first or second round. I'll go first round TKO, ground and pound on the ground from top position, Umar Sy.
Not a bad pick. Next fight we have random UFC generated career fighter Minsar Abdul Malik. Sorry if I said that wrong. Versus the GOAT. 3 main card appearances in a row. Cody Brundage.
Yeah, not enough is being talked about how much of a draw Cody Brundage is. I mean, now his third main card in a row. He was the opening main card fight on UFC 300. Had another main card on a fight night in the Apex. Now in a crowded arena in Atlanta, main card spot right under Cody Garbrandt. I mean, Cody Brundage, big draw in the UFC. I think not a lot of people are talking about that. I think
It's
we need to give him
flying
some
under
love.
the radar, and it shouldn't. Cody Brundage bringing numbers, bringing views to the UFC. Fighting this 8-0 dude, I don't think it's gonna matter. Cody Brundage, he's got a little bit of momentum after. I think he got a finish on that last fight night he was on. I can't remember which one it was. Um, but I think he's gonna.
Did he beat Julian Marquez on March 1st by TKO in the first round. That was on the Manel Kopp and Almabayev fight night. Yeah, first round TKO for that. But yeah, that was Cody's last fight. And then you look at Abdul Malik. This will be his second fight in the UFC. His first fight was in February on the Cejudo and Song card in Seattle. He got a second round TKO over Nick Klein. So decently quick turnaround for Abdul Malik here. But yeah, both these guys coming off of a finish win, coming off of TKOs. Who do you have to win though?
Got Cody Brundage. Hard to pick against the experience. I don't know. I forgot. I just literally forgot what you just said about Malik, where his last fight was. Where was it?
It was the Seattle card, the Cejudo and
Okay, so it
Dog
wasn't
card.
any Apex at least, but Cody Brundage fought, main card on the biggest pay-per-view card of all time. So many people there. I don't think it's gonna phase him. He's been there. He's been around a little bit. I'm not saying he's vet, but nothing too
Well,
crazy.
he is a vet. I mean, he's been up and down for sure, but he is a vet. I mean, last few fights, TKO over Julian Marquez this past March. Before that, he had the fight at UFC 300, and then after that, he had a draw. Actually, he had a no contest draw against Abdul Rasak Halasan. So, second fight in 3 fights now where he's had an Abdul in the name of his opponent. But before that, I mean, he had 2 wins in a row against guys like Zachary Reese, who's a decent middleweight, and then Jacob Malkoon, both guys that have experience. So I also am going to go with Brundage here. I think he'll be able to squeeze out a decision. I think he'll be able to use his wrestling to a degree. I haven't seen the betting line yet, but I would assume he's an underdog at plus money. So I wouldn't be surprised either way with this, but I'll lean Brundage.
Well, shout out Cody Brundage. Next fight, Cody Garbrandt versus Raoni Barcelos, the Unk fight. Obviously, Raoni Barcelos coming off one of the biggest upsets in UFC history, beating Peyton Talbot. Peyton Talbot was like a minus 1,300 favorite, I think. Something like that.
Yeah, first pay-per-view of the year. It ended up being the Islam versus Renato Moicano pay-per-view. Before that, we had our video predicting this year's champions by the end of the year, and then we also predicted who would be our breakout fighter of the year. And I picked Peyton Talbot in that. And then just 2 weeks after we made that video, Peyton Talbot, he cut his hair, he lost all his aura.
Spent too much time wrestling with Frank Ocean.
Frank Ocean was in the building. No comment on that. But Barcelos he looked more complete. I mean, going into it, you thought Barcelos would only have a chance on the ground, and it turned out he outstruck him as well. So going into this one with Cody, this one's hard to pick for me. I think Cody at times against the right competition can still get wins, but I think Barcelos is going to have a little bit more momentum here. I think on the ground, Barcelos is going to be a little bit too strong for Cody. I think his skills on the ground are going to be too much. I'm going to roll with Barcelos by decision here. A submission wouldn't surprise me, but I am going to roll with him squeaking out a 2-1 decision. 29-28.
Not bad. I don't know. I kind of have a feeling that this could potentially be Garbrandt's last fight in the UFC. He's old. He's on a bit of a losing streak. Also fought on 300. Was the first fight on 300. Got finished by David Figueiredo. And I don't know.
How do you feel about his face tat?
The sword.
The sword going through his eye.
I don't think. I mean, he's always been tatted up. I don't mind. I don't hate it. Looks like he's going to be fighting with cornrows, taking the Paddy Pimblett approach. But just for the vibes, just for everything, I'm going to roll with Cody Garbrandt.
I don't think you've checked it yet, and that's what I'm asking is, what do you think the betting line is on it?
Betting line, probably Barcelos minus, I'll say 350.
Okay, a little bit more generous towards Cody than you'd think. Barcelos is minus 225, still just over 2-1, and then Garbrandt's right at plus 180. So decent value on Cody, I think. I don't think it's the worst plus money play on here. That being said, like I said, I'm still rolling with Barcelos to squeak out a competitive 29-28 decision.
Yep. Next fight on the card that all the hardcore UFC fans are excited for. The main reason I'm watching this, if you're not, you don't care about the UFC.
You're a casual.
This guy versus that guy. I'm just joking. Edmund
Shabazian.
Sabazian versus Andre Petrovsky. Uh, what is there not to say about this fight? Really, is what I should say. There's
So
a reason this is the featured fight and not Paul Craig versus Rodolfo Bellato. I'll say that.
so Edmund, I think you're dismissing Edmund Shabazian a little bit. He's been in the UFC for a long time now. Um, last few fights, last fight he had a first round TKO over Dylan Buka. Before that, he had beaten Gerald Meerschaert by submission, beaten AJ Dobson by knockout. So he's on a 3-fight win streak here, all by finish. And then he's just been around in the UFC a while. He's, I believe, 4-1 in his last 5. Or yes, he is 4-1 in his last 5. So Edmund Shabazian's been someone who's been floating around, been creeping around the rankings for middleweight for a while, trying to break in. But right whenever he gets an opportunity to break in, it just doesn't go well for him. That being said, Petrovsky, on the other hand, he was on the Ultimate Fighter. He was on the season with Volk and Ortega. He's been a little up and down in the UFC. His last win, a decision over Rodolfo Vieira, and then before that, he beat Dylan Buka, a common opponent with Edmund, beat Josh Fremd, which is actually a really good win, and then his last loss was against Jacob Malkoun. So again, just fighting these guys that have been in the UFC for a while, floating around the rankings. He is on a 3-fight win streak as well. Lost in his major step up in competition, which was Michel Pereira back in 2023. So in my opinion, this is kind of a chance for either of these guys to potentially get a ranked fight after this win, or be another fight away from getting a ranked fight at middleweight. I mean, middleweight, outside of the top few with Hamzat, with Drakus, obviously he's a champion, with Nasruddin, there's chances for guys to slide into those rankings real
Don't forget
quick.
my good buddy Kyle Brahio.
And Kyle as well, of course. But yeah, so two guys that have been in the UFC a little bit. Edmund has a little bit more experience, and as far as skill set wise, I'm just gonna roll with Edmund here. I think on the feet he is levels above Andre Petrovsky. I think Petrovsky is a good wrestler. Is able to do well in top position, but I think Edmund's going to be well-rounded enough and be able to stop the takedowns from Petrovsky to be able to keep this on the feet. I don't know if there's going to be a finish here, but I'm going to roll with Edmund Shabazian. I'll say by decision. I think Petrovsky's takedowns are going to be a little predictable for Edmund. I think Petrovsky has a problem sort of mixing it up on the feet as well as setting up his takedowns to where I think Edmund will be able to stuff takedown attempts, use the underhooks, and I think he'll be able to just outpoint Andre Petrovsky. Or I'll say 30-27 Edmund Shabazian.
Forgot I could do this. Yeah, I'm gonna roll with Edmund too. You gave some really valid points. Call me casual. I'm picking Edmund. Don't ask why. I just am.
It is crazy though. Edmund's been in the UFC for a while and he's still only 27 years old. I mean, that's insane to me. I mean, this is a guy that's had fights in the UFC, and I mean, he's been in the UFC since 2021, since 2020, since 2019. I mean, his first fight in the UFC officially was in 2019, and he's still only 27 years old in 2025. So he's still got a lot of time to make his way up the middleweight rankings, and I think this is the perfect opportunity for him as the feature fight on a pay-per-view in a crowd, or not on a pay-per-view, on a fight night that's in a crowd. So yeah, I'm gonna roll with Edmund here. I think this is the perfect opportunity for him.
Shout out. Next fight, co-main event. Thug Rose Namajunas versus Miranda Maverick. What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm heavy on Rose here. I know she's a favorite here, and I just think the experience is going to play a big factor here. I also think that Rose is a lot more well-rounded than Miranda. Um, I think Miranda, in a lot of her wins, has been able to out physical some of these girls. She is a bigger flyweight, and she does have some strength to her, and she's been able to use her physicality. But I think Rose is just more complete. I think she'll be able to put everything together better than Miranda will, as far as mixing in the takedowns with the strikes. I'm interested to see how much she shoots in this fight comparative to her others. She obviously can do things well on the feet and on the ground. Um, but I think Rose is going to get a decision here. I think she's going to win handedly here, honestly. And I think it's going to be a 30-27 decision, Rose Namajunas.
I agree. I also am rolling with Rose. It's like she's on a little bit of a comeback, a little bit of a Dominic Reyes-esque comeback in her career. I like Rose. I think she's going to win this fight. Miranda Maverick still got a long way to go. You win 27. Try again.
Yeah, I mean, with Rose, she has a chance to be able to make her way back up the rankings. She did lose her last fight back in 2024 against Erin Blanchfield, um, with a 5-round decision. So I think this is the perfect chance for her to bounce back. And I also think this is a big leap in competition for Miranda Maverick, fighting someone with this much experience with Rose. So I think Rose is going to be able to get it done.
I agree. Main event. I was there in Kansas City when this fight got announced. Dana went in the back room after the weigh-ins and just ripped off a live real quick. I got to see Buckley film his announcement of this live right before I met him. Shout out Joaquin Buckley. I'm really excited for this main event. Good to see Kamaru Usman. Marty's coming back. It's been about 2 years, I think, since his last fight with Hamzat Chimaev.
Yeah, 2023. Just a little under 2 years. It was October of 2023. So a year and some change since we've seen Kamaru Usman. But I think I want to say this about Kamaru Usman before I get into the prediction, because I want to give him some credit here and cut him some slack. I think the notion that he's sort of fallen off and that he's incapable of winning fights at this level in the UFC is a little overstated, just because of the circumstances with his last few fights. Obviously, what started everything was the head kick knockout in 2022 from Leon Edwards.
Which
And
he
then
was winning all
he was winning the whole fight. He other than round one, Leon won round one with the takedown. First time he ever Kamaru got taken down. Kamaru was dominating from that point on. It looked like a masterclass performance from round 2 and on. And he got caught. And that's what happened in this game.
Fluke head kick from, I mean, I couldn't tell you another Leon Edwards finish in his career.
It was a good setup by Leon. I'll give him his credit there. But that being said, my point here is that I think he took the fight I think he took the rematch a little too soon, similar to Volk taking the fight against Topuria after the Islam fight a little too soon. And then his next fight after those two with Leon was 10 days notice, up a weight class, and there are people that are arguing that he won, or that it was a draw. I mean,
I'm gonna say no.
well, hear it out. I don't think he won either, but hear it out. I mean, the argument is that was a generous 10-8 round in the first round by a lot of people's standards, and that Kamaru Usman definitely won the third round and looked like going out of the third round, getting towards the end of the fight, he looked like the fresher, more experienced, more talented guy. And Hamzat's a wrecking ball, and I'm not going to dismiss that whatsoever. We'll obviously talk about him in August, hoping that he can fight against Drakus, but there's a lot that Kamaru could have taken from that fight, and that he has a lot of reason not to hang his head on. So I think Kamaru Usman is still very capable of winning at this level in the UFC. I think similar to Volk, I like that he took the time off. I like that he's coming in against a guy like Buckley. That being said, I do think Buckley's going to win. I think, and that's not because I think Kamaru's washed. It's not because I think Kamaru's old. I think it's just because Buckley's going to have the advantage on the feet here, and I think he'll be able to stop Usman's takedowns. Um, and another thing is that ring rust is a thing. Kamaru hasn't been in the octagon for a little while, obviously taking some time off, which a lot of people would have wanted from him.
Maybe
But I
not
think
this.
Buckley, hmm?
Maybe not this long.
Yeah, maybe not this long, but he stated on his podcast with Henry that he wasn't going to take a fight until he was ready, until he felt like he was fully capable. So that is something that you can lean on with Usman at that plus money. Um, but I think Buckley's just going to be fighting from ahead here. I think he's going to be able to swarm hit Kamaru Usman in the first round, land some clean shots, put on the pressure, keep Kamaru on the back foot, and really just impose his will. And then from then, I feel like Kamaru has capabilities to have his moments, but I think Buckley's going to get tested at times, especially in the later rounds. But I do think his early work will reap the benefits, and I think he's going to win a decision. I'm going to say I'm going to say 4-1, but it's one of those 4-1s that some judges will have 3-2, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, might be a little bit harsh than you, but not before I give Marty Usman his credits. I mean, one of the greatest fighters we've ever seen. 15 fight win streak can't be ignored. Put a dominant reign over the welterweight division. He's a podcaster now. That's what it seems like. Professional podcaster. The knees are cooked. They're non-existent at this point. Feel like I can definitely see. I can see Buck going and attacking those knees, throwing an oblique kick in there, which will really become a problem for Usman. And it's also, I mean, I'm going to roll with Buckley, my good buddy. Shout out. He knows me. So, yeah, I'm going to roll with Buckley by finish here, actually. I can see him get a TKO. And then I think Usman retires. I can't. I mean, unless he wants to do some fun fights a little bit, I can't see him fighting for much longer in the UFC with how much damage he's taken, especially like I said, to the knees. He's older. There's not really much for him to accomplish more if he doesn't win. He says if he wins, he thinks he can get a title shot after Islam and JDM. He beats none of those guys. And then he said he wants to go for double champ at middleweight, where he doesn't beat Dricus or Hamzat either. So.
Well,
We'll see if we can get through.
We saw a Hamzat fight on 10 days' notice. We saw it only 3 rounds. But yeah, Kamaru Usman talking about fighting the winner of Islam and JDM after this. I think no matter what happens in this fight, I don't think there's anyone more deserving than Sean Brady to fight the winner of Islam versus JDM whenever it happens.
Yeah, I agree. So that is our picks for UFC Atlanta. I think it'll be a good card. We've got some other good fights. Prelim looks good. Like I said, got Paul Craig versus Rodolfo Bellato. Michael Chiesa coming off a win off Tony Ferguson, but I mean, who isn't? Welcome to the club, buddy.
Chris Moutinho, big comeback to the UFC.
Yeah, big comeback. Chris Moutinho versus Malcolm Wellmaker, where there's
one
a
of the
reason.
biggest, I think one of, if not the biggest favorite of all time in the UFC.
Yeah,
I believe he's minus 2,500.
I saw Malcolm Wellmaker's debut fight at Kansas City. I mean, that was a nasty knockout. But he did not respond to my message for an interview, so we're picking Chris Moutinho to win this fight by brutal knockout. No, I'm just joking. We all know what's going to happen. I like Malcolm Wellmaker. Cody Durden. Our good buddy Jimmy Flick beat Cody Durden. So there's that. Ricky Simone, Philip Rowe.
Yeah, a lot of familiar names, guys that have been around the UFC for a while in this card. I think this card is not getting enough love as it should. I mean, I think it's going to be a really entertaining card.
Yeah, I agree. Just some other news to talk about. Francis Ngannou showed up today at the weigh-ins. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
Showed up.
Eric Nixick talked about how he was open to Francis coming back to the UFC. Francis has, I believe if this is correct, he has one fight left in his PFL deal. And then, honestly, I don't think it's going to happen at all, but my fever dream is that somehow, some way, we just get John out of here and then have Francis fight Tom. I think that would be, yeah, that would be the funniest thing ever just because of what John's been doing and how he's been holding everything up and just letting Francis slide in. I think that would be hysterical.
Daily reminder to sign the petition, guys.
Sign the petition. Go on Tony Has Died on Instagram. Yep. Petition's in the link. Go sign the petition. Strip John Jones.
317 got fixed, I will say. On here it didn't.
It's not showing up on here, but the news is that Manel Kape out of his fight against Brandon Royval, which would have been a number one contender fight. Now sliding in Joshua Van coming off of his win last weekend over at UFC 316. Now at the age of 23 years old on less than 3 weeks notice, sliding into UFC 317 against the number one contender in Brandon Royval. This is gangster stuff.
Favorite.
Slight favorite. I've seen the line move a little bit. Last I saw, it was -110 for Joshua Van and +120 for Brandon Royval. I bet by now that Royval is the favorite. I'm gonna check right now.
But yeah, some gangster baller stuff from Joshua Van. That's why he's the GOAT. I absolutely love Joshua Van for this. I mean, how can you not? You win a fight, you dominate Bruno Silva, you get moved up to rank number 14, and then the UFC calls you, hey, you want to fight the number one guy in your division in 3 weeks? And you say, yeah. I mean, if you win, you're up next, buddy.
That's a title shot if you beat Brandon Royval. I don't care who else is in the division. And then I've got the betting line right here. What do you think it is?
I like to think that Joshua Van is still the favorite.
You're wrong. Brandon Royval is -125. Joshua Van is +105. So it's pretty much a pick 'em at this point. But I agree with Brandon Royval being the favorite. We have to respect Brandon Royval and all that he's done in the flyweight division. Fought for the title, has beaten a lot of the contenders here, was slated to go against Manel Kape, beat Taito Tora. I mean, we got to respect. I think the line is a little generous towards Joshua Van, if I'm being honest. I like Van. I think there's a lot of hype around him. I think he has a bright future. I'm not predicting the fight right now. But that being said, I was surprised to see that Van opened as a favorite on some books and is still just at +105 against someone as experienced and still pretty young, Brandon Royval. Brandon Royval's not old. So I was a little surprised on that. I will say, this is on DraftKings, by the way. Of the bets that have been placed, 63% bets are on Brandon Royval. You're getting Brandon Royval at a nice number here at -125. I think it's good. I think it's good profit either way. But that being said, I think getting Brandon Royval at this small of odds, being this small of a favorite, I think that's the way to go with betting. But like I said, we'll keep the predictions for the breakdown video. But that's just some big picture news that we had to get out.
Yep. Like I said, it's not open here. They did fix it though. Still main event and co-main same. They moved Beneil Dariush and Renato Moicano to the featured fight, which I thought they should have done to begin with. Paulo Costa versus Roman Kopylov is now the main card opener, which I think is a good spot for it.
Love it.
And so it goes Paulo Costa, Kopylov. The next fight is Royval versus Joshua Van, Dariush versus Manny Moicano, Pantoja, and Ilya. Justin Tafa, sadly, will not be on the main card, unfortunately.
Bummer.
We're bummed out. Just some other stuff. MVP staying at middleweight.
Jared
Another
Cannonier.
versus Jared Cannonier. Should be a fun striking match, I think.
Yeah, I'm interested to see in that one how if Jared's gonna mix it up any. There's been certain times where Jared can mix it up, but he likes to operate on the feet for the most part. And I think MVP is one of the toughest guys to prepare for. I mean, you can't bring guys into the gym that can emulate his style. You just can't.
Yeah. And that's pretty much everything we've got to talk about.
Yeah, UFC Atlanta this weekend, main event, Kamaru Usman versus Joaquin Buckley. Those are our picks, and we'll break down the card next week.